Welcome to Robot Unicorn. We are so glad that you are here. As always, let's start the show with a question from Scott.
We're going to start today's episode with a couple questions from a question box that you put up on Instagram. And there are two related questions. So I'll just ask both of them because they're related, and then we can get into the topic.
Okay.
The first question is, why is my strong-willed child so stubborn?
Okay.
The second one is, how do I deal with defiance from my strong-willed child? So I feel like they're related, a little bit different, but it's about strong-willed children. Why are they so stubborn? That's the question that the person asked. And
why are they so defiant?
yeah, how do I deal with the defiance?
They were really good questions. I feel like the label strong-willed children, I hear that term being used a lot. And I've used that term before too, just to describe a certain type of child. So I guess let's start there. Like, children are born with different temperaments that really shape their personalities and who they are. There's a piece of a child who's quote unquote strong-willed that might be part of their temperament. And that's not something you've shaped, something that you've made happen. It's just part of who they are. So children are born with different temperaments. Some kids are born with more of a mild temperament. So we see those kids are relatively easygoing. They might be your kids that you describe as like your easy kids. Then we have kids with a more slow to warm temperament. These are our kids that are labeled shy. They might be more hesitant to try new things. They might cling closer to you. Sometimes they're more sensitive too. And then we have our active temperament. So these are our kids that are typically described as more strong-willed, stubborn, busier. So it's not always strong-willed. Like, we could have a slow to warm child who's very strong-willed too, right? You've definitely seen that in like a shy child who also is like, there's no way you're making me do something, right? So it's not necessarily the more active temperament, but the more active temperament, yeah, they're busier, they're louder, they are more outgoing. There's different pieces to that temperament. So first of all, we just kind of want to know that our kids are born with different temperaments. I used to use the word strong-willed quite a bit to describe children, but have more recently stopped enjoying the phrase strong-willed so much.
Okay. That's not something I knew.
What? Oh, really?
Interesting. Yeah. I don't think you've shared with that with me,
okay.
actually.
Well, there you go. Learn something new every day.
Every episode, I feel like I'm learning something new. So this is valuable for me too.
Something about my brain is I am like almost constantly thinking about this stuff and like reflecting on it deeper, right? So sometimes what I'm sharing is just my own personal opinion. And right now I'm just sharing my own personal opinion that I have been steering away a little bit from using the strong-willed child language. And here's why. I feel like it is a label that we put on our kids. For example, I put that label on our daughter for a while. Oh, she's just a strong-willed child. That's why she throws stuff down the stairs. That's why she won't respond to me. That's why blah, 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 blah. But upon further reflection, I don't think it's about being strong-willed or not strong-willed. I think it's about being understood and being in right relationship with the parent or not, and having certain needs met or not. And so I think it's easy to say, oh, they're just strong-willed and kind of dismiss it. And I don't want to do that to those kids anymore. Like, I think we're doing a disservice.
Learn scripts and tools just to
learn some scripts to deal with them. But I don't want to dismiss our strong-willed children anymore. I think that they are children who there's a lot more going on underneath the surface, which makes them defiant, makes them have a hard time listening. I would rather get to the root cause of why they're appearing strong-willed and work on that than specifically only focus on like the surface level, which is like, they're strong-willed, they don't listen to me. You know what I mean? So am I making any sense?
I think you're making a little sense. I guess then my question to you would be, like, is it not possible for a child just to be a defiant, strong-willed child? And you can pour as much attention into the relationship as you possibly can, and they still are defiant?
Yeah, I mean, get curious. I truly believe, like in my soul, that a child is never just a defiant, non-listening child. Like, there's something going on underneath the surface there. That's not to blame the parents, because we have a child who definitely, she is more on like typically described as like strong-willed child. So that's not to blame the parents. Like, we just have our kids that have that more active temperament. Anyway, can I just kind of get into what I think is going on underneath the surface? Okay. So for our strong-willed kids, I think there's a couple things that are usually going on underneath the surface. First, I think sometimes our strong-willed kids are our most sensitive kids. And I think we mistake it for being strong-willed when underneath the surface, it's actually sensitivity. And the strong-willedness is what's protecting our child and keeping them safe.
So what's the difference between sensitivity and temperament?
That's a good question. So sensitivity is another spectrum that we look at for our children. And the sensitivity can range, right? So it's like, we've talked about this before, but it's lights, it's sounds, it's the way that our child perceives what's going on in the world around them. It's the depth of processing of their emotions. So for sure, there can be a link to their temperament that comes into play, right? So you have a child with a slow to warm temperament who like leans towards being more shy and hesitant. But at what point does their sensitivities also play a role into that? There's an interconnectedness to it all, right? Because at what point is your child actually shy and hesitant because when they enter into a new room and it's super loud and overwhelming, they have to stay close to you because the sounds and the way that they're perceiving it is just completely overstimulating to you, right? And in what way is a child who appears to have that more active temperament or appears to be more strong-willed? This is what I wonder. Like, I'll give you an example about underwear for our child. She wouldn't wear underwear. She refused to wear underwear. We could perceive that as she's a strong-willed child with an active temperament. She needs to learn the parent is in control and she needs to wear her underwear. Well, let's get deeper. Let's understand what's going on. Actually, she's a sensitive child, and the underwear that she's wearing impacts her so deeply that if she has an underwear that's uncomfortable for her, the entire day is going to be thrown off because that's all she's going to be able to feel on her body.
Yeah.
You get that.
I mean, I get that too.
So this is where I think when we just say strong-willed, but we don't look at what's going on underneath the surface, we're missing it. Because I think for so many of these strong-willed kids, they're sensitive. And it's looking like they want to be the boss in the home and they want to take control. And sometimes that's the case. But sometimes what's going on is they have to be strong-willed to protect their own self from overwhelming stimuli. So whether that's the underwear, the socks, whether that's a food texture that we're like, just eat the mac and cheese. But what we don't see, what's going on inside the child's brain is like, this texture of this food is so overwhelming for me. Like, I can't eat this,
Yeah.
you know? Or
I know it's going to offend people, but I get that with pasta.
Scott doesn't like pasta.
And that's probably because historically it was never made very well for me. So then I have an aversion to it.
Someone make this man a good pasta. Like, come bring us an al dente pasta and we'll see. Maybe he'll really like it. It won't be me. Won't be me making it because I don't know how to make pasta, but you know. Someone make us a good gluten-free, for me, because I have celiac.
That's not possible.
Yeah. So, AKA, we don't eat pasta in the house for that reason. Anywho, so they're appearing strong-willed and we're treating them as if they're strong-willed, which a lot of the historical ways that we treat strong-willed children is like, have better boundaries, let them have the natural consequences for their action, stand up as the leader in your home. And those are not all bad. But if
isn't that exactly what you say though? So
yeah.
Why?
With curiosity.
Okay.
I would say those things, but I would first say, what are we seeing here? Like, so if you come to me and you go, Jess, I have a child. She's so strong-willed. This literally happens to me all the time. She's so strong-willed. She won't listen to me no matter what I do. Like, she just does her own thing. She just says no to everything. My first thing is not going to be set more boundaries, give her a natural consequence. My first thing is going to be, let's get curious. What's she strong-willed about? And then you say to me, well, she won't wear her underwear. Like, she never will. Every single morning, no matter what clothes I lay out for her, she just throws them back in my face and she refuses to get dressed. Like, she's so strong-willed in the morning. Okay, so let's talk about that. And then we get curious and we get deeper and we understand that, sure, this child is appearing strong-willed, defiant, like they're not listening, but what's going on underneath the surface, right? So I think one of the reasons is sensitivities. And that's where getting in tune with what's going on for our strong-willed children is so important. And getting curious about that. So that's one of the pieces that I think is going on underneath a strong-willed child, strong-willed being sensitive. Another piece that I think is going on is the search for power and control. And I think a lot of the times our strong-willed children are the children who feel the least amount of control in their life. I'll give you an example.
I'm probably the prime example of that when I was a kid.
Well, I wasn't going to use you, but I mean, you brought it up. Yeah, okay, let's bring you up. I mean, you're one example. You were a very strong-willed child. You've described yourself as difficult, which thank you to all the listeners who push back on Scott when he describes himself as difficult and we just tell you that you were just misunderstood. But you would have appeared strong-willed. You didn't listen, right? But what was going on? You had no power over your life. You didn't have an attuned relationship with a parent. You didn't have someone caring for your needs. You didn't have someone that you could turn to say, they are going to take care of me. So what happened was you tried to start seeking power and control wherever you could in your own life in order to get that need taken care of. So the example I was going to give is when we had our third baby, our toddler, who is our sensitive child as well, but our middle child, she became incredibly strong-willed after we had our third baby. Why? At the time, I was like, oh, she's just a strong-willed kid. Now I see it from a different perspective. She was a kid whose entire world had just turned completely upside down. She was my baby. I poured 100%, so much attention and time into her. I was still rocking her to sleep, all of these things. And now all of a sudden I had another baby. She maybe feels replaced. That's a normal thing for a child to feel. It's normal for children to appear more strong-willed after a new baby enters the home. So it's not to make you feel guilty, but that is a reason that a child can be strong-willed. She has less control over her day. Things are changing, their routine's different. So she's going to start seeking control wherever she can, because children have a need to feel power and control somewhere. So the power and control starts coming out and nope, I'm not going to eat that. You tell me that I can't play with this toy, well, I'm going to snatch it from you. You tell me that I'm not allowed to touch the baby, I'm going to touch her 10 times more.
I'm not going to wear that, and I'm not going to go to bed when you want me to.
I'm not going to go to bed. I'm not going to wear that. Why? Because my whole day is telling her, no, 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 no. And she's not in right relationship with me anymore. That is a disruption in our relationship because I had a new baby in the home. It's natural that disruption is going to happen, but because things were so chaotic and busy, I didn't have the time to pour back into that relationship with her and help her find places to feel power and control. So she's going to appear more strong-willed. And what I think happens with our strong-willed kids is that the more we try to assert more power over them by saying, here's a natural consequence, here's another boundary, you need to go to timeout, or threatening them, if you don't stop doing that, I'm going to do this, they become more and more strong-willed because there's more and more disruption in the relationship and there's less and less control that they're feeling. So they're just going to bump that up more and more. And Gordon Neufeld calls this concept of when we push our kids and they push back, counter will. And you and I talk about counter will all the time because we see it in all three of our kids. I
mean, I have it too.
And especially Scott. But you're still like that. Right? And we're all like that. If you push me too hard on something, I'm going to push back. That's our counter will. It's a natural thing for our children to have, but we want to work with the counter will, not against it. And I think a lot of the traditional strategies for strong-willed children have us both working against each other, right? Your child's been bad, quote unquote, all day. They're hitting, they're not listening, they're defiant. And so instead of getting curious and trying to find ways for them to have power that are positive and partnering with them, we're just go to timeout, go to your room, no TV tonight. We're adding more power and control. And we're going to get into even more power and control struggles. So I think that that's another thing that's going on for our strong-willed kids and why I don't want to just label them and be they're just strong-willed. Underneath the surface, there's a need for power and control and a need for relationship. And if that's not being met in healthy ways, there's healthy ways for them to get power and control. They're going to be seeking it out in every little detail of your life. So that's another reason why I think kids are strong-willed. I want you guys to know how long I think about this. I lay awake at night and I'm there's something more. Strong-willed, there's something more going on. I'm so sick of this label. I have spent so many sleepless nights thinking about this topic. So thank you for asking me this question today, as I've been waiting.
It wasn't me. It was other.
Thank you to everyone for
listeners.
asking me this question, listeners, because I've been waiting for an opportunity to really dissect my feelings on this label, strong-willed. Another thing that I think is going on underneath the surface of our strong-willed children, and I kind of talked about this already, but the need and the craving for a leader. So strong-willed children will appear like they want to be the leader of your home. And sometimes, because we are afraid of their emotions, their meltdowns, the way that they are going to respond, we literally were laughing about this morning with our toddler, we will act out of fear and let them be the leader.
Yeah, because we saw our two older daughters being afraid of
our toddler this morning. Because let's be real, if a child is presenting as strong-willed, they are loud, they sometimes hit you, they have big meltdowns, and they can be a little bit scary for us. And so even this morning in our house, our toddler, who I would not really say is strong-willed, but she was very overtired and grumpy this morning, was in a mood. And toddlers have meltdowns. It's developmentally appropriate. We expect them to have meltdowns. So this is all normal, natural stuff. She wanted a toy so bad. And her two older sisters, 4 and 7, this is a 2-year-old, were like tiptoeing around her, afraid because
it was kind of comical.
Even though one of them had the toy first, like in our home, whoever has the toy first gets to keep the toy. So our 4-year-old should have had the toy, but our 2-year-old snatched it, and she was afraid to ask her to get it back. And they were both looking at our 2-year-old like afraid because it didn't want to cause a meltdown. Because it's big, it's loud, it's overwhelming. And so how often as parents, especially...
And they had little smirks on their faces too, like, oh, this is...
It was actually really, it was cute. It was a cute moment. But like how often as parents, when we have a strong-willed child who's very assertive, speaks their mind, do we become afraid of our child's reaction and we start to cater to them, right? There's a difference between getting curious and meeting their need and being afraid of them and catering to them so that they don't have a meltdown. It's two different things. Mm-hmm. So for example, you have your strong-willed child who's like, I want to bring this ball of kinetic sand into bed. Right? You know that's not a good idea. Let's not bring a ball of kinetic sand into bed. Like there's no way in no world this is going to be good. This happened to us last night. But you know that if you set that boundary, no, you may not bring kinetic sand into bed. Let's say night-night to it right now. We'll tuck it in. I literally tucked in a ball of kinetic sand last night. I can't even tell you how I did that, but I did. You know, let's tuck it in. Let's put it back in the sand tray, and then we're going to go to bed. You know that that's going to lead to a meltdown. And that's where, as parents, we have to be okay with those emotions. Because what happens is if we stop setting boundaries over things like that and stop being the leader in our home, our child stops trusting our leadership as well. So if every time I'm going to set a boundary over something like kinetic sand or you can't watch more shows, it's time to turn the TV off. But Mom, I really want to watch more shows. I'm going to turn the TV off. I said TV was going to be done after this episode. I'm going to turn it off. But I want to watch more shows. And then I go, okay, fine. Yeah, whatever. Watch one more episode. My child's going to stop trusting in my leadership and they're going to start learning, oh, so if I push the boundary 3 times, then my parent will give in. And then they are going to be pushing back harder and harder. So part of what our strong-willed children also need is to know that they don't need to be the leader of the home. They're not the one who makes the rules. They're not the one who sets the expectations. And they need to learn that they can start to trust in the leadership that you're going to provide. A healthy, strong leader does 2 things. 1, they are the one that sets the rules and expectations. It's too much to place on your child. We can talk about that. And 2, they stay curious. So being the one to set the rules and expectations doesn't mean that all you do as a leader is like, okay, TV time's over. Okay, gotta sit at the table. Okay, this is what we're eating tonight. It means that you're also getting curious. So if you set the menu for dinner and you feed them food and you're all sitting down together and they don't want it, they throw it at you. You can set a boundary around throwing food for sure, but you also want to be curious about why they're not eating that food. So it's 2 things. I think we have historically seen leaders as just like, I'm the boss and what I say goes.
Yeah, put your foot down.
Put your foot
These
down.
are the rules.
Good leaders are curious. Good leaders are empathetic. Good leaders want to get in tune with what's going on. And that's what I want for parents to do with their strong-willed kids as well. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I just feel like there's so much going on behind the label of strong-willed. There's sensitivity. There's relationship. There's leadership. There's where do they have power and control, you know? And there's ways that we can give our children a sense of control and power that's healthy. And I want us to think about all those pieces when we start to think about strong-willed kids. What do you think?
To be honest, I feel like I have nothing else to really say in this one. I think you very eloquently explained what you wanted to.
Yeah.
All right, it's that time of the show where we hear from our sponsor. Oh wait, that's us, Nurtured First. Attention all sleep-deprived parents. Do you feel like a zombie during the day because your little one keeps you up at night? Well, I've got some news for you. You're not alone. I've been there too, struggling to keep my eyes open and my sanity intact. But here's the thing, I refuse to let my kids cry it out alone. Call me a softie, but I believe in being a cycle-breaking dad. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Jess's helpful approach to sleep. Imagine this, a world where bedtime is less of a battle, and you wake up feeling a bit more refreshed and ready to tackle the day. Sounds pretty good, right? Well, it's possible. In the Solving Bedtime Battles course, Jess shares the tools and strategies that have helped thousands of parents improve their child bedtime routine. We've got practical tips and tricks that aim to not only help your child develop better sleep habits, but also strengthen your bond with them. Whether you've got a toddler, preschooler, or big kid, this course has got you covered. From tackling night wakings to dealing with procrastination and even navigating sibling room sharing, we've thought of it all. So, if you're ready to work towards improving your child's bedtime routine and your family's sleep, check out the Solving Bedtime Battles course now. And here's the best part. You can get it for 10% off today using the code ROBOTUNICORN. Check out the show notes and start your journey to better sleep habits today. Your future self just might thank you.
I do want to just add a couple practical things.
Yes. Well, I was going to ask if you could go through each, like the sensitivity,
Sure.
each of those and provide an example, but I have nothing to add to.
Sure. Let's provide
said.
an example of how we can help a child for each of those reasons why they might be appearing as strong-willed. And let's use the question at the beginning of the podcast, which was defiance and stubbornness. So how can we help a child who's defiant and stubborn as we look at those different areas? So maybe remind me of each area as a pop quiz to see if you remember what I said.
I remember none of them. This is my counter will coming out.
Yeah.
I refuse to answer.
I love whenever I say to Scott, tell me this, and then I immediately see his counter will, like, I'm not telling you anything.
Okay, sensitivity. I know that one because that's me.
Okay. So we have a child who is appearing strong-willed. They are defiant and they are stubborn. So we decide to get curious about sensitivities. Let's use the underwear or socks as an example. Every morning, your child needs to put on underwear and socks in order to go to school. Every morning, your child is defiant. I don't want to wear underwear. I'm not putting it on. And they're stubborn. No, I'm not putting my socks on. No matter how many times you tell me and remind me, I'm not doing it. I'm going to school in bare feet, right? Easy to see this as a defiant, stubborn child. Let's get curious about their sensitivity. Okay, underwear and socks are hard for you. Those are both things that are on kind of sensitive parts of your body, right? So in a quiet, calm moment, coming to your kid and saying, every morning's feeling tough. I don't like how it's feeling. Every morning you and I are getting into a fight about wearing underwear and wearing socks. That's not really a great feeling. I don't like starting my morning that way. And I have a feeling you don't either. The child goes, yeah, it sucks. And again, you're doing this in a calm, quiet moment. And you go, I wonder if there's like something about the underwear or the socks. It's just like not feeling right to you. And the child goes, my socks feel fuzzy. Fuzzy. Okay, that's an interesting description. Like, tell me more. And you try and get curious with your child. And this also shows them that you're on their team. You want to work together, right? And you can even say that. I'm on your team. I want to work together. I want mornings to feel better. I don't want to fight with you every single morning. That doesn't feel right to me. So that shows your child that you're the leader as well. So that also solves your leadership debate. Your leadership struggles that I was talking about too, right? You're the leader. You're taking charge. Then you open up, let's say, Amazon. And you say, okay, why don't together we try and find some underwear that's maybe going to feel good for you? You look on Amazon, you find seamless underwear. That is often really helpful for kids who are highly sensitive, right? The seams are often what bothers them.
You're describing exactly what I did with our middle daughter.
Yes, exactly. We've literally done this. And you order the seamless underwear, it comes in, you let them try it on, and oh my goodness, it feels so much better than this other underwear.
All of a sudden, underwear is not bothersome anymore.
All of a sudden, we don't have a strong-willed child in the morning anymore because they have underwear on that actually fits their sensory needs. So that's where I'd say to go. If it's sensitivity, you could do the same thing with food, partner with them in a calm moment, and basically just ask them what's up, get curious with them. So that's one tip for the sensitivity piece.
Okay.
Do you remember the other pieces I talked about?
Leadership. You talked about that one already, so that's an easy one for me.
Yeah, leadership. So as I was saying with the sensitivity one, in that scenario, you are taking control. You're being the leader. You're no longer waiting for your child to have a meltdown every single morning and fight with them in a calm, quiet moment. You are taking control.
So it's more like proactiveness.
You're being proactive.
Yeah.
I'll give you another example for leadership. Let's say every single time it's time to turn off the TV, your child has a full-blown meltdown and they ask you for more and you get frustrated. So it goes like this.
No more TV.
Okay, hun, you have one more episode left of your show. Okay, episode's over. Okay, hun, time to turn off the TV now. No, I don't want to. I want to watch more. No, I told you one more episode. No, I want to watch more. Mom, let me watch more. No, I told you one more episode. Full-blown meltdown from the child. Okay, fine. Like, stop bugging me about it. I have to make dinner. One more episode. Okay, child watches one more episode. In that situation, who's leading it? The child. Why is the child...
You asking me this question? You're looking at me like I'm supposed to answer.
Answer me. Why is the child leading it? Because we're afraid to deal with the meltdown that comes. What's going to happen long term? The child is going to know not to trust your first boundary, not to trust your second boundary, not to trust your third boundary, and to keep pushing until eventually you change your mind. And this is going to happen then across many different things.
Real question. What if I blame Siri for turning the TV off?
That's what we'll do in our home. But that's a boundary that we set, right?
I don't actually. They know.
No,
They know
it's
to
us. But leadership in this situation would look like before your child turns on the TV, hey, you're allowed to watch one show, one episode, and then we're going to turn it off. The episode ends and the child doesn't want to turn it off, no problem. You turn off the TV for them. You just take that over and you turn off the TV for them. They're upset with you, no problem. You can handle the disappointment. Yeah, I know, you really wanted to watch more shows. It was fun to watch that show. And as we already planned, we are only doing one episode today and staying true to the expectation that you already placed.
That sounds so easy.
It's not easy. That means you're going to handle a meltdown.
I'm being sarcastic.
But what's going to happen is it will become easier for you down the road.
Yeah. Well, and they'll expect it more. And yeah. I understand what you're saying.
What I find is like with our kids now, I feel like we're pretty consistent when we set a boundary. We're pretty consistent on it. And I feel like we have so much less meltdowns over these types of things because they just trust us. They trust our leadership. They know that we're going to actually just turn off the TV for them then. Yeah,
I would say in general, we have pretty good boundaries around most consequential things, but then inconsequential, I can't even think of an example right now, but I feel like some things were like, okay, yeah, whatever, that's fine.
Yeah. Like obviously there's times where you're going to be flexible.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if your child can learn to trust your boundary.
Yeah. I think it's easy for people to hear you have to be the leader, you have to set boundaries, all that stuff, as like, now I am the dictator in this household. Yes. I will have laws of my household and you will follow those laws and that is it. But I think it's important for kids, and this is based on nothing but my own opinion and brain, but I think it's important for kids to see a little bit of leniency at times and a little bit of spontaneity, maybe.
Yeah, of course. Think of the best leaders that you know, like the leaders who were the best in your life. They don't just bark orders at you all day. That's not being a good leader that you're going to trust and want to listen to, right? Like if I'm thinking of a leader that I want to listen to and that I trust, yes, they have clear expectations and rules. I know what to expect from them. I know what it's going to be, but they also are interested in me. They talk to me. They are curious about my life. They also have some flexibility and they want to teach me new things. Like part of being a good leader would also be like in a calm, quiet moment, hey, screen time's always tough. Like we're having a really tricky time turning the TV off and transitioning back to play. I feel like we're fighting every single time. I don't want to fight with you. Like I'm on your team. And I know you love screen time. I want also to be able to give you screen time, but I can't do that if every single time it's a fight. So how do you think we can make this work together? Let's figure it out. Like there's a collaborative aspect to being a leader too. It's not just like dictatorship and telling someone what to do and what not to do.
I feel like, again, just because even a podcast episode is still somewhat short to explain the nuance in situations, I sort of wanted to mention that because
for sure.
I think it could easily be misconstrued that you saying you have to have boundaries. You have to be the leader.
Yeah.
That means you're creating law in your household and you must hold fast always to every single rule that you have.
I even think about leadership for strong-willed children. Our quote-unquote strong-willed child, now you know how I feel about that phrase, sometimes will be very insistent on who does her bedtime routine, right? And you and I swap off bedtime every other night with them. That's just what we do. They know that. They know what to expect. But sometimes the counter will come up and she'll know it's dad's turn and she wants it to be mom's turn because no one's telling me whose turn it is to do bedtime tonight. But I think leadership in that moment is you're never yelling at her. Say, you have to be okay with dad putting you to bed, right? You're never being so scary or threatening her, but you'll pick her up. She'll be crying and be like, I know, hon, mommy is so fun. I love when mommy puts you to bed too. I can see all the reasons why mommy would be fun. But can mommy do this? And then you get really silly and playful with her as you carry her up to bed, holding that boundary while also being funny and silly and caring. And that's leadership too. So I just feel like it's important to note that leadership is, yeah, like you said, it's not harsh, but it is consistent.
And now, the part of the show that you usually skip, but wait, don't touch that dial just yet, because today's sponsor might just change your life, or at least your bathroom habits. Let's talk about the potty toolkit from, yep, you guessed it, Nurtured First. Picture this. You're a parent staring into your toddler's eyes as they proudly poop in the corner. You've tried everything, letting them run around naked, promising them a toy pony if they use the potty, and even contemplating moving to a deserted island where diapers grow on trees. But nothing seems to work. Enter the Potty Toolkit by Nurtured First. This magical bundle of joy is designed to make potty training fun, easy, and, dare I say it, enjoyable for both you and your child. It's like having a team of potty training fairies at your beck and call, without the glitter and the creepy wings. The Potty Toolkit is packed with over 40 pages of stories, activities, games, and worksheets that will get your child excited to use the potty. And the best part? It's all backed by decades of research and designed by a team of child therapists who know their stuff. So if you're ready to ditch the diapers, head over to the link in the show notes and grab the Potty Toolkit for 10% off. That's right, for less than the cost of a month's supply of diapers, you can have a fun-filled potty training experience. Don't wait, go to the link in the show notes now and get the Potty Toolkit by Nurtured First for 10% off today using the code ROBOTUNICORN. Your child and your bathroom floor will thank you.
There's one more piece that we haven't talked about yet. Do you remember?
Yes, but you tell me what it is so we know we're thinking the same thing.
I don't trust it. I don't know. The control.
Yeah.
The power.
Yes, I knew that.
Yes, of course you knew that. Of course you remembered. So our children appear strong-willed, they appear stubborn and defiant when they don't have control over things in their life, right? Or life feels out of control. I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with that even in their own life. Like even as adults.
Yep.
When things feel out of control, you might be like stuck on something, like, and that's like one little piece that's within your control in your life, right?
Right.
Adults are like that all the time. I remember, and we were struggling after having our baby, and you were like stuck on, I have to go for this bike ride at this specific time or something like that, right? It's like, because that was like the one thing you could control is like going on your bike. Anyway, so then what we want to do for our kids who seek control is give them control, but in healthy ways. Right? So I like playing a game with the kids. Some days when I've been like super bossy to them and I feel like they haven't had any control and then the counter wheel starts coming out, I'll be like, all right, let's just pause. Let's play a game. It's called Kids Are the Boss. And you're going to be the boss of me for 10 minutes. And whatever you tell me to do, I will do. I always say, as long as it's not gross and as long as it's not like eating something that I don't want to do or it's unsafe, but I'll do whatever you want me to do. And usually it's just like being an animal or putting my clothes on backwards or doing something ridiculous. And for whatever it is, 10 minutes, I'll just do whatever the kids want me to do. And that gives them a sense of control, but in a controlled way, right? They get to have power. They get to tell me what to do. They get to boss me around. And I'm still the leader of it. And then usually what happens is A, it connects us in relationship. It brings us closer together. B, I'm still being the leader because I'm telling them that now it's your time to have the control. But C, it meets their needs for control. And
they have fun.
They have fun doing it. And at the end of it all, we've laughed, we've had fun, they've had a chance to get that need for control out, and then we can go on with our day because there's like a clear start and finish to it. So if parents are really stuck with stubborn kids, sometimes they'll say like add in playfulness, add in something like that where they do have a sense of control. Maybe give them a job. What can they do around the house? Give them a job, give them something to do. And ideally things that also bring you closer in relationship. Because I mean, the underlying theme with all of this always is relationship. Your child needs to know that you're tuning in with them, you care for them, you want to help them. And so sometimes this can come out in like, hey, why don't you be in charge of putting all the spoons on the table tonight? Like, you're in charge. You figure out how many spoons that we need. You do it. I'm going to totally trust you. And so what if they put 15 spoons on the table, right? Like, give them pieces where they can control and you'll see less of those power struggles.
Beautiful. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah. What did you contribute to this conversation?
I was actually thinking that at the end I was going to comment on how much I spoke during this episode and how I contributed.
Like, so glad you're here.
Yeah, so glad I'm here.
Thanks for being part of this and really, contributing something.
There's probably going to be people that message you saying not to be so mean to me.
I know, I always get that.
Yeah.
I know, but Scott's okay. Don't worry.
Jess says so herself.
Yeah. But I do hope that you found this helpful. And also, there's still so much more I could have got into here, right? Like
Oh, I know.
being strong-willed, having power struggles. Like we could have specifically got into defiance and not listening. Like I want to, but future episodes.
Yeah. Gotta cut it off.
We got to cut it off somewhere.
Yep.
So let us know if you have any questions, comments about this episode, things that you think about strong-willed children. And just know a lot of this is just my own personal reflections. Of course, like there's research on it as well, but a lot of kind of my insights into strong-willed children is just based on working with so many kids called strong-willed and knowing that there's something else going on underneath the surface.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening to my ramblings on it, and I hope it makes sense and it helps you.
Really good work.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Thanks. See ya.
Hey friends, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. We are glad that you are here. If you enjoyed today's episode and found it interesting, we'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a rating and a review. Scott and I actually sit down together and read them all. A 5-star rating helps us share our podcast and get these important messages out there. Thank you so much for listening, and we can't wait to talk to you again next time.